What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of the Sunday's Coming podcast.
The Sunday's Coming podcast. What are we even doing here?
What are we doing here? My name's Caleb.
And my name's also Caleb.
He's with the K. I'm with the C. Don't get confused. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We're going to keep that.
That's right. Because I get confused half the time. How many times has someone asked us if we are brothers?
I think every time we've ever gone to a hotel together, every time we walk into another church.
Here's the thing that's weird, though, is like, what brothers have the same name?
Yeah, that would be weird.
It's weird. It doesn't make any sense.
It'd be the strangest parents.
Cruel.
Ever. Yeah. But it does happen all the time. We do get asked a lot for brothers. And it's a fun little thing. And people are like, I don't understand. I think we've done it at the airport too. They're like, oh.
It's all right.
Like, yeah, my name's Caleb too. But anyways. Well, glad you guys are here. I'm excited because we've been talking about doing this for a very long time. It's taken us a little bit longer than I think what all of us wanted to get started and, kind of get some of the stuff kicked off. But the name of the podcast, it came from, it was a phrase that I was saying like all the time, especially post-COVID. It's like, man, Sundays never stopped coming, whether it was through COVID or whatever, not only for creative worship teams, for senior leadership teams, any position in ministry. And so the encouragement that we're trying to bring to this and the people that we're going to have on it throughout the next season or whatever we want to, end up calling it as we're kind of launching this, is going to hopefully encourage people that are currently in ministry, regardless of what seat that they're sitting in, not only just for their own longevity, but for the longevity of their teams, for reducing burnout, for reducing, I think just like the frustrations that come with ministry. We've both been in ministry for over a decade, and so we've personally lived through many seasons of that. And so I think just trying to find and try to create resources and have some amazing people that not only, the people who are listening can learn from, but that, even just like you and I can hear and learn from and see how people are innovating and doing new things in their own local ministry.
Yeah. It's really an opportunity, I think, for anyone who's in a role where you have that constant deliverable, right? A communicator, an artist, but not an artist that gets to kind of do whatever they want. Correct. An artist that has to deliver every Sunday, an artist that has a deadline, whether that's in a ministry space or a paraministry space or whatever. That's just a unique role. It's a unique way to have to think, to have to operate, to have to be consistent, but also how do you stay healthy, right?
Yeah.
And so I think voices that are from within the ministry space, voices that are even outside of the ministry space, that can bring some encouragement, some fresh perspective. I think it can be easy when you're in your own space, in your own context, to just kind of like head down and grind and, go after the things that you have to do. Yeah. But to zoom out and hear from people that are doing things differently, doing things in other contexts, that have doing things, bringing, different backgrounds and experiences to the table. Those are all conversations and opportunities for learning and guidance that it's really important that we all are taking time to zoom out, pause the week to week, and hear from people that we might not otherwise hear from and open our minds to something that we might not otherwise experience.
Totally. Yeah, I think about it in the context of every time that I've ever walked into another church with zero context other than, hey, I'm just going to meet this person, or I'm going to hang out, or I'm going to go tour their space because I wanted to see blank church.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever walked away, regardless of like the seat that I've been in my career, without like learning something from whatever these people are doing. Even if it could have been same size church that I was a part of with a similar staff, same number of campuses, whatever. And I would walk away going, oh my gosh, like they're doing this thing that I never thought of. And so, what I want and what we've already seen with some of the guests that we've had, like leading up to this, as we're kind of launching this, was learning how other ministry contexts are doing it today, and how hopefully people that are listening can learn from that and go, oh my gosh, I didn't have to tour their space to hear some things that can help you and your own ministry, like just do it better from Sunday to Sunday, because they don't stop coming.
Totally.
Ever.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's also one thing where the week to week becomes the focus. The week to week becomes like everything you're thinking about is just how do I get to that next milestone. And I think a lot of people can sometimes like pop their head up and be like, wow, is this what it's going to be for the next
Correct.
10 years, 20 years? Like what's the trajectory that I'm on, right? Where am I headed? And if that's where some of the people that are hanging out with us on the podcast find themselves, like I would love for some of the content that we talk about to be sort of a mile marker or a data point or a touchstone of like, you can pop up your head and be like, hey, if I don't like kind of where I'm at now, here are some things that I could do so that the next 5 years, the next 10 years start to move in a direction where I feel like, yeah, actually, I could keep doing this. Actually, like this is energizing. This is life-giving. I can see like progress being made in my own abilities and my own self. I can see the team growing. I can see the ministry growing. And so, taking stock of where you are and kind of looking at your trajectory is super valuable every now and then. And so if you are kind of taking stock and feeling like, wow, I don't know if I can keep doing it like this for the foreseeable future. Like are there some things that you could start to implement, some encouragement, some things that you could start to play with to make that next 5 years, next 3 years, next 1 year, next 6 months even more sustainable and be an experience of like flourishing and health and not of, discouragement.
Yeah. I think it's, I mean, what you just said, and we were even talking before we started recording, it's just like, if I can't do it this way for much longer,
right.
Whatever. And so it's like, if you can't do that, then how do you change it to, and it's like so often I would find in some of the conversations we've already had is just like the context of what you're doing right now doesn't necessarily mean it's something that you have to be doing forever, or it's the way that you should be doing it. And it's like this untold or unset expectation that you're supposed to be doing things in a certain way, whether it's in a ministry context or outside of that. And just learning that like, man, am I the issue here?
Yeah.
Like, man, I've asked myself that
Totally.
farther from the season that I was in, as time went on, looking back going, interesting. The things that I was annoyed with people just happened to happen or be the same in every location that I was at.
I'll tell
That's
you what,
weird.
one constant in your life is always going to be that you are always part of the issue.
Yes, correct. And so I think it's just like, it's taking a step back and being able to look in that context and just go, oh, I didn't realize that it might have been me, or it might be me in this scenario, or how am I leading, or how am I introspectively looking at myself.
And it's not even you in like, is it me in a negative sense all the time? It's like, hey, in this context, this is what I'm able to bring. Like, this is the way I'm able to show up in the best way. This is the leadership I'm able to provide. This is the, guidance or whatever I'm able to provide from the seat that I'm in right now. Yeah. So sometimes you can be the one bringing some negativity, right? But sometimes the question is not, are you bringing negativity? It's, are you bringing positive vision? Like, is there an opportunity for you to kind of lead the way to bring ideas in such a way where it's not just like, hey, I want to do this thing, but like, hey, here's something that's going to like help everybody, and it's going to solve problems and make an improvement in the experience for the whole team. Yeah. And so like, how are you able to lead beyond just what you need, but lead in the context of the team? Yeah. Lead beyond just like what's going to solve my problem today, but how do I have like a forward-thinking vision for where we're going? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes me think about the other day I was listening to, or I don't know, what's Instagram reel or TikTok. It was this guy talking about job interviews and how it was a very much like a corporate mindset of just going like, hey, as you're walking in or interviewing somewhere, asking the hiring leader, CEO, whatever it is in your context, executive leadership, whatever, going, hey, how can I be a part of the projects or events or whatever it is, ministry contact department that is going to have the most impact for the church or the organization long term, that I can basically, fast track the progress of how I can make the biggest impact in my context. It was just really interesting because I viewed that in the context of going, so often I've walked into a ministry environment thinking like, this is a change for my career. This is a change for whatever I'm doing. How can I further whatever my motives and agendas are in my own ministry context, versus going, hey,
I just want to grow the ministry that we are, whether it's already being built or has already been built, and to continue to make it, better versus, I think, just like my own agendas. Like, I think personally,
well, it's a perspective shift of like, how are you thinking more broadly, and how are you thinking about your role in what's already happening, and not just like, what does this mean for me?
Yeah.
And that's really that can be really inspiring and like culture setting for the team that you're stepping into.
Yeah, I think for anybody that's like, I would say listening and even just trying to understand like who we are, what our context is, between, Kaleb and I, we've both had, at least a decade in ministry. Yours is probably longer than mine. And actively,
if we were brothers, I'm the old one.
Correct. And, in that, we've seen a lot of stuff. We've had great things that have happened, amazing ministry experiences. We've had really, really hard, experiences in our own context. And I know we're not alone in that, in everybody that's listening. And so both of us have been in and out of different ways of ministry, whether it's like full-time ministry adjacent positions, walking in through just encouraging a church, through coaching a church, through, whatever that looks like. And so my goal and what my hope is that, even just like we were able to continue to go along with some of these guests that we have planned, and we're learning from them in the same context and bringing it to not only our context, whether it's inside ministry full-time, outside ministry full-time, and being able to use that, just for a long time.
Yeah, I think about like a lot of the church leaders that I interact with now in sort of like a parallel to ministry role, right?
Yeah.
Like serving dozens of different church leaders. The commonality in the different churches that I'm serving alongside and helping them in some of the biggest, most challenging projects that they are ever going to face, right? Yeah. So they've got Sunday's always coming, right? Mm-hmm. They've got the stuff they have to deliver. They've got Easter coming up in a few weeks. And at the same time, in parallel with that, they're also taking on massive change for their church, massive projects, massive fundraisings, massive building, like whatever the thing might be, starting ministries from the ground up, team change and culture change, all these massive things, all while trying to keep the week to week going. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about what I would want the conversations that this podcast represents to be, it's like someone that's in that season where you've got that Sunday's always coming reality, and every now and then in your ministry season, you're going to have that coupled with very significant projects, undertakings, initiatives, whatever that your church is doing. Yeah. And so, if the things that we're talking about, the ideas that we're bringing to the table, the conversations that we have, the encouragement, the guidance, the coaching and pastoring can help those leaders figure out how to balance those tensions in a healthy way. How many leaders finish a massive church project and then like are burned out 2 years later? It's so common.
Or faster.
It's 8 to 6 months later,
Correct.
So how can we help those churches, those leaders, those teams, those pastors navigate the realities of the things that they're responsible for and they're serving their congregation in a way that's healthy, in a way that is going to lead them to end that season with joy and not in a place of frustration?
Yeah, we both see it all the time of like people and leaders leaving after their enormous thing, whatever that is in their own context, whether it's hey, we're building a new building, whether it's I'm doing this project, whether we're finding a new senior pastor, whether we're whatever it is, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we got there. Okay, now I feel like I'm released enough that I've done my duty so that I can walk away and feel okay. And I'm sure that during our time with some of our guests, we're going to have lots of conversations, even just about like going back a little bit to the longevity thing, but just going, when do you know that it's time that I'm like burning out, or that it's time to go, or am I running from something, or am I running to something? Yep. I've ran 2 things, and I've ran away probably more in a bad way, and so going, okay, how do we learn from that? And just like learning what that pulse is on our own emotional, body and spirit of just going, hey, how do we do this better? How do we not kind of run from stuff? So, so I'm excited for, just these conversations, and for anybody listening. And, as we're going through this, man, we're going to be like the classic, I don't know, YouTuber, podcaster, and just be like, subscribe and share it.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Because, man, we haven't done this before. And to be honest, we're just a couple of people having a conversation. And so this isn't going to be some like crazy corporate put together thing. It's just, we're just having conversations with people and our friends, people we don't know.
People that we want to learn from,
People we
that we want to learn from, and conversations that, will help us be better too.
Yeah.
So it's going to be great.
So stay tuned for the kind of first real episode with a guest coming soon. So we will see you guys later.
That's right. Excited to keep the conversation going.